So at some point, just about everyone will hear the classic philosophical phrase, I think, therefore I am. But there's a difference between knowledge and understanding. Simply being told something and trusting the people that told it to you versus actually understanding how they came to that conclusion, the process behind it, where it derives its validity from, all that sort of thing. For example, the Earth being round, being a globe. Now, I'm not saying I'm a flat earther. I'm not saying that. Let's get that very clear right off the bat. But there's a difference between being told that the Earth is round and not flat and actually understanding how they came to that conclusion, the math behind it, forming a hypothesis, how to test that hypothesis, how to prove or disprove the hypothesis. Both the hypothesis of it being round and the hypothesis of it being flat. I never was taught that in school. I never took the time to look into that. I don't actually understand it. And so I just trust them. And they could be wrong. I don't know. I don't personally understand it. I haven't personally done the math. I just trust them. And that's kind of how most people operate with most things, like almost everything, because there is so much to learn that you can't, like you just can't learn everything, which is one of the saddest thoughts to me, but that's not the point of this video. That's maybe a different topic for a different time. For most things, you just kind of have to trust each other, trust other people, that they've done the math, that they understand it. I'm not saying I'm a flat earther. Seriously, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can understand how someone could get sucked down that rabbit hole if they weren't aware, right? If they weren't aware of all that going on, and they're just like, oh, it's all about control or something, right? For some reason it hits some inner wounding in them, and it's like they latch onto it. Anyways, that's a different topic. So when it comes to I think therefore I am, that's something that I was told, something I knew, but about almost a decade ago, I had I'm assuming the only possible explanation I have is that I was drugged. And so I had depersonalization and derealization. Derealization being more common, it means you literally feel as if nothing is real. You can look at, my computer here, my Pokedex, my phone, and be like, this doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it actually exists, which is a really weird sensation. Like, I don't have it in any other way of describing it. Other than that, I haven't seen anyone else have any better way of describing it other than that, and I 100% understand that makes no sense and is completely incomprehensible to anyone that hasn't experienced it, because it's such a weird sensation. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. All that I just said also applies to depersonalization, which means you feel like you do not exist. So when I presumably got drugged, that's the only explanation I have, I had depersonalization and I literally felt as if I did not exist. Which, again, I get makes no sense. It's the weirdest sensation. So weird. And the only thing that brought me out of it was, I think, therefore I am. Because if I did not exist, then I wouldn't be here to feel that I don't exist. Right? Therefore I think, therefore I am. And so that's when I made that shift from knowledge, something that I'd been told, I trusted the people that told it to me. I made the switch from knowledge to understanding. Like, okay, I get it. I get this now. It's deeply integrated into my being. But when it comes to the depersonalization, right? That realization I made of I think therefore I am got rid of the depersonalization. I like reverted back to normal where I felt like I exist. But the derealization never fully went away. It just kind of faded into the background. Because I never came to any sort of conclusion. I could not find any way of proving that anything outside of me actually exists. Because everything we know about the outside world is filtered through the senses. Our consciousness does not interact with reality directly. Everything is filtered through the senses, including our perception of the concept of there being senses. I don't know if these actually exist. My eyes have never seen my eyes. They've only ever seen a reflection of my eyes on a mirror or a phone screen or whatever. Like my ears have never heard my ears, or maybe they have with like the tinnitus. No, I didn't have actual tinnitus. I was just hearing like the loudness of silence due to anxiety. That's different from tinnitus. Like my nose has never smelt my nose, if that makes sense. Like when you're a smoker and you don't smell the smoke because that smoke smell is there all the time. You just don't smell it because that becomes your baseline. Same thing with clothes. When you put clothes on a newborn, they feel everywhere on their entire body that the clothes is touching them at all times, and it drives them nuts. Right? No wonder they're uncomfortable. Kind of like, imagine if you jumped in a pool fully clothed. You feel how uncomfortable that is? Like babies that aren't used to feeling clothes feel that discomfort all the time until they get used to it. And now we put on clothes and we don't notice it because it's always there. It just becomes our new normal, our new baseline. So we can't know. I couldn't find any way of proving that anything outside of me exists. Or I also could not find any way of disproving that anything outside of me doesn't exist. And so I kind of like fell into the routines of life. You know, you need to sleep and drink water and eat and hygiene and go get a job and whatever, because like if you don't sleep, you get tired, you can't think, you can't function. But is that true? Or is that just placebo? Is this all just hallucination? Is my tiredness something I've convinced myself to be true? Unconsciously or subconsciously or whatever. And maybe it's not actually real, right? I'm just being purely hypothetical. That's like legitimately a possibility. But recently I came to a conclusion that it feels too soon to say the conclusion. It feels like there's more context needed. But I'm being too rambly in my videos. This is like my fourth take. And I really just want to get this done because it's late at night and I'm short on sleep again. And I need to go to bed because I have to sleep. Because if I don't, then I get tired, then I can't function, and that's no fun. That's no good. Basically, I spent the last decade living on blind faith. The thing that I hate the most. Above all, I hate blind faith. Assuming that something is true and living as if that thing is true and making decisions based on that assumption without actually knowing it, without actually understanding it. That's dangerous as fuck. That's how genocides happen. The Nazis, for example, they genuinely believed that the Jews were inferior and that they should kill them all. They had zero evidence to support that belief, but they believed it anyway. That's blind faith in their belief, even though there was zero evidence for that belief to support it. Zero. Blind faith is the worst thing a human could possibly do, and it wasn't until I think it was January 2nd of this year, 2025, when it suddenly hit me that I'd been living on blind faith, on the most fundamental thing of, like, does anything even exist? And so that kind of really messed up first several months of my year, to say the least. But then I wish I would have noted the day. Maybe, hold on, could I look at a calendar and figure out the day? Nah, I don't know what day it was. Oops. Yeah, I don't know what day it was, but I, maybe like 2 weeks ago or something, suddenly, wait, maybe I could figure out what day it was. I don't know. A week ago, week and a half ago, something like that. 2 weeks ago. Wait, hold on. I really do want to, actually, I think I can figure out what day it was. Last Tuesday? May 13th, possibly? Anyways, I realized that to search, here we go, finally. This is like my 5th time trying to record this, and finally, like, the thought process is going properly. To search for an answer to that question, like, does anything actually exist? To search for that answer out there, fucking retarded, absurd. What? Like, you don't even know if this shit exists. Why are you asking it if it exists when it could all just be a hallucination of the mind? So the answer to that question cannot be found external to you. It has to be found in here. And the instant I realized that, bam, the answer hit me. Of course, external reality exists, because if it wasn't there, I wouldn't be able to perceive it. So I think, therefore you are. Or I perceive you, therefore you are. Now the new question is, what is external reality? Is it its own thing that exists on its own, or is it just a hallucination of the mind, or is it something else entirely? Who knows? But the one thing I can know is something exists that I can perceive. That I can know for sure. And it's like I just said that so quickly and concisely, but it's been taking me, and I can tell it will continue to take me a long time to process and integrate that switch. It's basically the same realization. It's like the depersonalization was solved by the I think therefore I am, and now this derealization that I forgot I was feeling because it just became my new normal, that veil is being lifted, and suddenly everything is feeling very real and very scary. It's like I had a moment late February, something like that, where that realization was starting to happen on an unconscious level, and the veil was starting to lift, and things were starting to feel real, and I felt actual fear for the first time. Super weird. Super weird experience, where it's like, if you aren't convinced that anything actually even exists, then you're not really, like, sure, you're kind of afraid of it, like you would be watching a horror movie and yeah, it's scary, but you're not actually scared. This character on the screen, yes, it's scary, but they're not actually going to come kill you. So scary as hell, traumatizing as hell to watch these horror movies, but it is a different type of fear, as opposed to someone is literally actually chasing you with an axe, is actually trying to murder you, real fear. And I, to a degree, had that with external reality. This sense of like, everything was, all the senses, all the feelings, touch, taste, smell, care, love, gratitude, fear, sadness, everything was dampened, blurred, like, not suppressed, but like numbed, because if it's not real, it doesn't fully hit you. It doesn't really affect you. There's a difference between crying at an absurdly sad moment in a movie, and yes, it's real sadness, it's real tears, but there's a difference between that and like losing a loved one. Hits way harder, right? And so I was having that same split within reality. There's a difference between, and I've fortunately been insanely fortunate that I've never really known death yet. And I say fortunate because I'm going to be, when someone close to me dies eventually, I'm now like old enough and conscious enough to really experience it and process it, and as opposed to like when my grandpa died, I was too young to really understand what was going on. But there's a difference between losing someone when you feel like nothing exists and losing someone that you know exists. Everything's more intense. Everything's more vivid. And it's scarier. It requires more bravery. It's like if you're training for a battle, a war, whether it be a modern war or like a old knights in armor and swords type of war. Imagine if you did all of your training for your entire life in this extra padding, this extra protection, and you forget that you have that extra protection, like that feels normal to you, and then when it's time for the real thing, they take all that extra padding off, and you're like, whoa, I may have trained my entire life for this, but I feel very vulnerable. Because you trained wrong. But at the same time, right, I've been focused just on the negative aspect of it because that's the part that hits you the most at first. But once you can push through that, all the good stuff is better too. When you are convinced that external reality actually exists, again, regardless of if it's all a hallucination within me, a reflection of myself, or if it is its own thing that actually exists separate to me, that I still have no way of knowing which one it is, but either way, it exists. Either as its own thing or as a projection from me. Either way, it's something. I know it's something. I know it exists in some capacity. Whatever like the new question, like I said, is not does it exist, it is what is it. That's important. I'm going to say that again. The new question is not does it even exist in the first place or at all. The question is what is it, this thing that definitely exists. Whew. I feel it right now as I'm saying that the veil is lifting and suddenly everything is feeling very real, very scary and vulnerable. But at the same time, if you can push past that fear, push past the sadness, there's a lot of like, how do I explain it? How do I explain? Because I want to get to the happy part, but I do feel like I need to explain the sadness part of it. Because the fear makes sense. The fear, I feel like I have explained well. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain that one. So I guess I'll skip over it for now. But like, if everything is, if something good happens in a movie, I'll just use the same. I'll use the same metaphor. If something good happens, I'm sorry that this video is so long, but this is big for me. This is really big for me, and I hope it helps you too. If something happy happens in a movie, you're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. Or in a video game, or whatever, right? Like, yes, the character did their thing. They defeated evil, or whatever. Versus, or they got their promotion. This is a better, easier, more compatible comparison. They get their promotion. They get the girl. And they have the happily ever after. Like, yeah. Versus real life, you get the promotion. You get the girl. Like, way more exciting, right? That, again, that same split was happening in my real life, where if you aren't convinced that anything outside of you actually exists, like, yes, still exciting to like get a promotion or get the girl or whatever, still exciting, cool, but when you know it's real, way better. All the positive emotions, all the negative emotions, everything is amplified. And that's what I've been like feeling very overwhelmed with for a couple of months now. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. Um, I hope this was helpful to you, so that will question everything.